who will be joining us a little bit later. Welcome to the December 2020 recess meeting of the Arlington County Planning Commission. Tonight, Thursday, we will be hearing an update from the county's Racial and Equity Chief Officer, changes to the county zoning ordinance regarding outdoor cafes, and have the Planning Commission committee reports, and we'll also be electing our chair and vice chair for 2021. Before we start, there's some items I'm required to share with you now. For the safety of our staff and residents, we're holding this meeting virtually, as we did for our earlier meetings this year. Welcome to our commissioners, county staff, applicants, and committee members who are all joining us remotely. We're legally authorized to hold this virtual meeting based on the governor's executive orders, legislation adopted by the Virginia General Assembly, and the County Board's Continuity of Operations Ordinance, which was adopted in March of 2020. Before we begin, I have a few specifics to orient all of us to our virtual environment. Tonight's meeting is available as a broadcast with closed captioning on Comcast Xfinity channels 25 and 1085, Verizon Fios channels 39 and 40, and the county's website. Audio of tonight's meeting is available via phone. If commissioners, presenters, or speakers lose your internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone and use the number provided in that team's invite. Registered speakers have received Ms. Johnson's telephone number in their speaker registration confirmation. For other presenters and speakers joining us through Microsoft Teams, please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Please turn off the sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. When called upon to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that's located on your Teams meeting command bar. The moderator nor I do not have the ability to unmute you. If you're dialing in by phone, press *6 to unmute. Commissioners, if you wish to be recognized to speak, please raise the hand icon on the toolbar or unmute your microphone to signal your intent. I'll call upon you in order. Public speakers, you will be called upon by the clerk at an assigned time. Pre-registration to speak at today's hearing was required. We are not able to accommodate additional speakers. Public comment will take place within the same time frames as we would provide at an in-person meeting. Speakers will have 3 minutes to comment as individuals and 5 minutes to speak if representing an organization. A speaking timer will be displayed on screen by the clerk. If you are dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide an audible warning when 30 seconds are remaining. You will be muted when your time has concluded. The meeting chat is active for presenters or commissioners who need technical assistance. Do not use the meeting chat for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comment must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. Lastly, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county's website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act requirements for the Commonwealth. Madam Clerk, could you please call the first item?
Our first item for the evening, which is item number 3 on our PC agenda, is a presentation by Ms. Samia Byrd, our Racial and Equity Chief Officer for the Arlington County Government. Welcome, Ms. Byrd.
Welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening. As mentioned, my name is Samia Byrd. I am the new or newish Chief Race and Equity Officer for the county, and I'm really pleased to have an opportunity to speak with you this evening. Since this is my first time speaking to you in this capacity, I will share with you a little bit about my background, my personal revelations about my role, and how I'm approaching it. So a little bit about my background. In 2007, I began with the county serving as a principal planner in CPHD. In 2017, I was promoted to Deputy County Manager, where my portfolio was CPHD, focusing on land use, planning, development policy, and also the county board's meetings and agendas. I'm a city planner by education with years of experience prior to coming to the county, spent working in the areas of housing and community economic development as a government contractor, in the nonprofit sector, as well as the private sector as a consultant. My upbringing is grounded in public service and leadership, and my passion and reason for being a planner has been to build bridges and bridge the gap for people of color and women wherever I have been or am privileged to go. And my desire has always been to work to physically make communities and neighborhoods better and improve access to resources that better enable people to thrive in all areas of their lives. Empower as well as build the capacity of people of color to successfully contribute to and shape the places where they live. But being Black and a woman, and through my own personal experiences, I know the challenges in this field. And not just of being a planner and the prevalence of racism and sexism, which does exist, but just in us looking at the history of planning, land use, and zoning, as we see how deeply embedded in the institutions and structures race really is. So how did we get here? While serving as a deputy county manager the past 3 years, for upwards of 2 of those years, I've been working to advance equity within the organization. We talked for more than 2 years about equity at the leadership level, and I spoke specifically about racial equity, sharing in a conversation with the county manager that I was the only person in a leadership level position in his office that looked like me. I spent time on a working group with others around the region with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and the Government Alliance on Race and Equity about a year prior to the introduction of a regional learning cohort program, specifically focusing on learning to advance racial equity in government. We talked for a year about having an equity-focused position, but weren't certain what the position would do or be. In 2019, I worked with then Board Chair Dorsey and in discussion with the Destination 2027 Steering Committee to get to an equity resolution and also continued discussions about having, again, a dedicated position. The board adopted the equity resolution in September of 2019, and at the same time, a 10-month learning program with COG and Weir kicked off, which we had 13 staff, including some from APS, participate in this journey. My position was announced in July of 2020, as there were many things beginning to happen, not just given the pandemic and the resurgence of racial and social injustice and protests, but responses that people wanted to have at the community level, the county, and in the organization. It seemed appropriate and the right time to start to be intentional, deliberate, organized, and accountable at the leadership level to move forward in efforts on racial equity. So about my new role. The Chief Race and Equity Officer is a position that I have the unique opportunity to shape. As I step into it in this role, I am not the expert. I'm not the only one to do the work. I'm not going to fix or solve racism. I'm not a diversity and inclusion officer or a compliance officer. It's not a political position or appointment. I'm not a token and I'm not a checkbox. However, I'm a leader, convener, organizer, coordinator, and collaborator. This position is really about taking an enterprise-wide look at the institution, structures, and laying the foundation for cultural change and addressing systemic racism. Leading others to believe and understand their role and part in advancing racial equity, and then to think through how they will do that and what that means for them as an employee, a resident, a business, a visitor, or a leader. And what do I mean by racial equity? It is closing the gaps so that race is no longer a predictor of one's success in all areas of life. So why Chief Race and Equity Officer, and why are we leading with race? The position is very specifically focused, like I mentioned, on racial equity, which is beyond diversity, beyond inclusion, and even equity in the broad sense of the term. This is somewhat unique because it acknowledges that there are systems in place, rooted and embedded in our institutions and culture that result in racialized outcomes or disparities based on race. One's success is predicated based on their race, whether we identify success as opportunities or access to wealth, education, health, housing, the criminal justice system, social status, even geographic location. And this is a result of race-based systems and institutions. Issues related to race and centuries of racism are the root of the structure of our institutions, particularly when we're talking about government, policy, and economics that this country and government were founded on. Issues of race are pervasive, and we have historically and still to this day have issues talking about race, let alone naming racism. It's always the elephant in the room. It is hard and it is uncomfortable, but being specific matters. Race matters, and this is not to say that the focus on race does not recognize the need for intersectional analysis. We're race explicit, but not race exclusive. Centering on race covers other areas of intersection where people face prejudice and discrimination, are marginalized or disproportionately impacted. Because of the construct of race that has been created and embedded in society for centuries, centering race is paramount when identified with other areas of intersection. And so if we can address issues around race, it too addresses those areas of intersection that we should and do also need to bring to the discussion. So we target our efforts on race with the goal of producing solutions that will improve outcomes for success where everyone will benefit, which we call targeted universalism, and where we will have a model and strategy that can be applied to other areas of marginalization. And so in this position, it's really about working to understand where systemic issues lie and how we as an institution perpetuate them and how we can disrupt and dismantle them to improve outcomes as we work through our policies, our procedures, our processes and practices, and very importantly, in partnership with the community. So let's be clear. There are a lot of terms and concepts being used, especially today, and they are not all the same. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI as an acronym, is not a single concept. Each builds on the other and all are needed. Diversity is representation. It's different identities and cultures. Inclusion is participation. It's quality of the voices identified in cultures being heard. Equity is outcomes. And to be clear, equity is not equality, meaning we are not looking for equal outcomes. Equality is applying the same thing or approach to different people and expecting the outcome to be the same. This assumes the systems in place are fair and designed to operate in a way that everyone has access to the same things in the same way and that we're all considered the same. But we do not and we are not. Equity is based on an understanding that our starting point is different, and that's not because of anything that an individual has done, but because of the systems and institutions in place. Therefore, how we respond to and address the differences cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach, equality, and can only be addressed by looking at the system and how we individually interact with and operate within it. Equity is justice, that everyone is represented, participating, and that the policies, practices, and procedures have outcomes that are accessible to all, no barriers. So shift from equality-based approach to an equity-based approach. An equity mindset is needed if we're looking to do more than provide equal service, but equitable outcomes. And so racial equity is beyond the diversity, it's beyond the inclusion, and it's beyond equity. Again, closing the gaps while also improving outcomes for all, moving beyond services to focus on changing our policies, our institutions, and our structures. So as a county, what does this look like? Realizing Arlington's commitment to equity, the acronym RACE. The vision, Arlington will be a place where all are valued, educated, healthy, and safe, regardless of race. The mission, to advance racial equity, to eliminate, reduce, and prevent disparities in our policies, our processes and practices, and our engagement and interaction within the community. The goals and the framework centered around 4 things. 1, normalize. A shared understanding, knowledge, and terminology around racial equity within the organization and among the community. 2, organize. A sustainable and supported structure to advance racial equity, to include personnel and resources that become a defined and integral part of the organization and the system. 3, operationalize. A racial equity lens, an equity mindset, applied intentionally, consistently, and constantly in developing and considering the impact that policies, plans, and decisions have on all residents as well as employees. We would ask who benefits, who is burdened, who is missing, how do we know, and what do we do? And we would ask why with each one of those questions. Be intentional about inserting racial equity into our decision-making processes. And it's not just about asking the 5 questions, but it's really about embodying them individually and as an institution. And getting to that is the work, the process, and the product of leading and working with an equity mindset. And we can't apply the lens or the tools until we know or understand why we're doing it and the issues we're addressing, which is race, individually, institutionally, and structurally. Checking our bias and our privilege every step of the way, not just planning buildings, creating places, but communities for people. And if we don't really know and understand who those people are, then we're missing the point of what we do. So we check our motives, our intent, and our purpose. Also collect, disaggregate, and analyze data based on race, intentionally, comprehensively, and as a matter of practice. And number 4, assess, establish benchmarks, and regularly and continually evaluate where we are, what we've done, how we're doing, what things we need to change, adjust, and how do we evolve over time to respond to changes in our workforce, our culture, our community, and our environment. The ultimate measure of success is when racial equity as a value is what we believe and becomes what we all advance as a matter of practice, standard operating procedure. It's just what we do. So on this journey to an equity mindset, I'm taking the time to meet people, to actively listen, and learn about areas of concern and importance in the community, and also within the organization. Normalizing, providing education and awareness, opportunities for facilitated conversations and training, organizing, establishing a racial equity core team, an interdepartmental team to assist in developing further an enterprise-wide racial equity action plan. And all of this includes the conversations happening right now within the community, our dialogues on race and equity, happening at the community level with partners who are being trained to have the conversations, soon with neighborhoods with a toolkit, but importantly, a community-wide assessment to understand people's experiences and perspectives with respect to race and racism in Arlington. Taking the time to build and establish relationships, partnerships, and network. Hearing a lot from people in the community groups who want to have education, training, raise their awareness, and understand what they can do with their organizations and within their spheres of influence. Well, what we can do is we can talk, we can educate, we can listen, and we can learn. Understand who we are, how we identify, what we believe, what our privileges are, what our biases are, and how this shows up at our work, in our community, and in our interactions with others. So as I conclude, as I talked about the vision, the mission, and the goals, and there's a framework for the how, there are no shortcuts and no steps to skip. Be clear that racial equity is not a project or an initiative. It is not something that we can be given a task list or to-do list to complete, or even intellectualize our way through. We're balancing urgency of the moment with the need for sustainable systemic change. This is a journey, and we want to be thoughtful about the work and understand we are working to achieve cultural change, behavioral and learned in terms of how we treat people, understand people and their experiences, and then become tolerant and respectful as we interact and serve. An equity and racial equity approach requires us to go deeper, is uncomfortable, and challenges us each individually and then from an institutional and structural perspective. Systems change, culture change, it takes time, but we're not patient. It's hard to measure, and we want data, metrics, scorecards, and performance mandates. It's hard to see, yet there is no immediate gratification, and we want tangible evidence, justice right now, but without doing the hard work and deep work necessary. Some of us are tired, others fearful, doubtful, concerned, perhaps even maybe hesitant. But the status quo, complacency, silence, and inaction is loud and heavy too. We have to start talking about race, having the hard conversations within our spheres of influence and across communities and organizations in order to move to action. We must use this time, this moment, to persist, be consistent and diligent. Addressing centuries of institutional and structural racism means stepping out of comfort zones to speak up and show up to disrupt, and then step up to dismantle the system that none of us here created, yet we're all a part of. And I will end with this. Racism has been a matter of urgency for more than 400 years. It won't be solved because in this moment, we're acutely aware, but because we are chronically persistent and persevere in our approach to dismantle it at the root, no matter how tiring or uncomfortable.
Thank you, Ms. Byrd. I now open it up to the floor. If any commissioners have comments, questions for Ms. Byrd, now is the time. Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Byrd, for your presentation. It's great to have someone with your expertise and your passion working for Arlington County. I just wanted to say that I very much am interested in the work that you're doing, and please let us as a commission, let me personally know specific things that you think that we could get started on. I know and recognize that it's not a checklist, but also, I'm eager, and I know my commissioners, my fellow commissioners are eager to get to doing the important work. And so let us know what direction you may have for us and how we can be part of this important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Siegel.
Thank you very much for that extremely articulate and passionate presentation. I really do appreciate it. Just a question about, I'll call it output of your work. What form will it take? Of three questions. What form will that take? How can we know about it? Because it goes beyond our normal work, but can impact our work. And when it impacts our work, how will you ask our help, participation? Will you come back and update us? Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
I'm happy to definitely keep you all updated and to come back and check in on, periodic basis as we continue to move along. We are trying to continue to have information available on our website, so the equity webpage, where we continue to add information about the work we're doing. So for instance, the DRE work is there. A couple of other things that we are working on are having demographic data available based on race and some sort of a dashboard that we're looking to create that will help us to continue to track progress and work that we're doing. So that is one place to have outputs. As we continue to also work with the staff and we start to move forward in a plan, we will be able to provide more updates on that as well. And then some of the work that we're doing, so the DRE work, we have partners signed up, community partners, and looking toward what the next steps of that partnership will be. So again, that's another opportunity to engage the community and community groups and organizations and others in this work. And then also I've been thinking about what are some ways to also do this similar work and engage with boards and commissions. So something to look out for and more information to come on that as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes.
Hi, Ms. Byrd. It's great to see you back before our commission. We've missed you in your time in the county manager's office, but thank you for gracing us with your presence this evening. It is good to see you back, though. I loved your comments about data, and I just, I'm always fascinated because I believe, you can't change things without knowledge. That's a sort of a thing. So, have you identified at all, like your first major goal for data that you think could be eye-opening to the community that you feel like we may not otherwise know? I know 2 years ago or a year ago, we had the great one out of VCU where we saw the health life expectancy outcomes that got published, and we showed it on the census by census track, delineating not only, zip code levels, things we obviously know and impact, but really do make us think more deeply and broadly about our own community investment. So I would just be really curious to know, like, what you've targeted as kind of your first sets of data that you think might be eye-opening for our community as we engage in a long conversation. But thank you. And again, it is great to see you again.
Thank you. One of the first things that I've been trying to get a handle on is where are we just generally as a county based on race and all the different metrics that we consider. So we know health, but when we talk about like income, we talk about housing, and is there a comprehensive set of data that we can pull together? And that's one of the things that I have been talking with staff about. And there are a number of organizations that do profiles of counties. And I do have something in draft that I'm hopeful that to be able to share soon that gives just a basic overview of, where we are in terms of race in different areas of what we call the indicators of success. To me, that just having that comprehensive understanding of how we're doing and where different populations are based on income, based on employment, based on housing, geographics, et cetera, I think gives us a good foundation to start to work from, to know where are the key areas. Something else that's come out a lot from some of the conversations we've heard, some key themes is about education. And of course, we know about things we've heard about housing and zoning, and we've seen some of the data around that starting to be put together. But I really would like to have something that's comprehensive, that gives us an overall picture of how different populations are doing based on race in these different areas that we can start to compare.
That would be amazing data. So I do love it. And I know you're going to be out there working. So my only plug for you as you move forward is we sometimes always people I hear, in a zip code 22204. And, I live in 22204 and, I hear my neighbors and always, a number one people say is, well, West Pike and East Pike is wholly different. And that's true. We know it. We experience it as people. So to the level that you're able to give us granularity of details, I just look forward to it. And thank you again. And to my fellow commissioners who don't remember you, Ms. Byrd used to grace us with her presence, and she was wonderful in planning, but she's moved on to bigger and better things. So it's great to see you again.
Thank you, Stephen.
Commissioner Morton.
Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I had the same data question as Commissioner Hughes, and kind of a related question. I really appreciated your acknowledgement that different processes may work better for different people. And this year, and I guess next year, going to be the SPRC chair, and we've recently had a project where we're trying to figure out how to best accommodate a project and the community around in Green Valley. I'm wondering, I know this is at the early stages, are you anticipating experimenting with some pilots of maybe changing some processes to better accommodate certain populations? We're sort of struggling with, do we need to change the whole process, or is it acceptable to just, acknowledge that different communities may need different processes? And we love to see, if you do that, what we can learn from what other commissions are going through. So thank you very much.
Sure. I love the idea of, piloting, because that is something that we all struggle with, but we do acknowledge that people engage in different ways, and continuing to apply the same process to everyone, everywhere is not really working for us. And we do have to be aware that, not everybody is going to engage based on, technology only or a piece of paper. And how do we build the relationships to be able to know how to reach people and make sure that everyone is engaged and involved? And that's something that we've been talking about quite a bit, actually. Is going from, what we've been doing now to when we have projects in different places and we want to make sure that there is diversity and inclusion in those processes, making sure we can meet people where they are and reach them in ways that, invites them into the process. The other part of that too, though, is that not everyone knows how or has been able to participate in government at the same levels as everyone else. throughout. And so, again, it's taking a harder look at our system overall for engagement and how people interact with government and what are those barriers to having everyone participate in government. And so while it's the process for maybe, say, SPRC and other things, I think it's even bigger than that, quite honestly.
Sorry.
Commissioner Schroll.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Byrd kind of spoke to what I was going to mention, but it is good to see you, Ms. Byrd. And like Commissioner Hughes, it's good to see you in this capacity. We do miss you coming to visit us, and we do miss you at SPRCs. I think you're the perfect person for this job. You know the county well, you know all these processes very well, Ms. Byrd, and I think you're going to do a great job. And like Commissioner Peterson and Commissioner Morton, I think we do welcome your insight into how we can start to weave these things that you talked about into what we do, knowing that it's not a checkbox clearly, but how can, I know you worked a lot on the SPRC and 4.1 processes, so how can we kind of start to weave these into everything we do so that it's not just a box we check, but that we're very intentional, as you mentioned. So yeah, I certainly welcome that, and glad to see you in this very important role, and know you will do good work, and like my colleagues will certainly welcome the insights that you're able to gather, and welcome the tough conversations that we all have to have, me included, in the coming years. So thank you for this effort and for your continued work for the county.
Thank you.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Thank you. Oh, there you can see. I just really wanted to thank Ms. Byrd for her very thoughtful comments and a description of the position and how it can partner with Planning Commission and other county commissions. And if there are opportunities to sort of pilot actions, I'm always interested in testing things and seeing where we can aim for improvement, and see what works and what doesn't. You know, sometimes things you think will work don't work. So from that perspective, I would be very encouraging of opportunities for that. And to the extent that there are opportunities to test new things or to kind of come to the Planning Commission and say, what if we tried? I just wanted to throw my full weight behind that, and would love the opportunity for you to come back again at a to be determined date to talk about, you know, how maybe some of those pilots or actions that we are taking and what kind of results we're seeing, so that we can evaluate, you know, what's working, what's having the results we want to see, and in some cases what's not. So thank you, and just really wonderful tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Steinberger. And Commissioner Weir, you're next.
I just want to join the chorus of my colleagues thanking you so much for your presentation tonight, and conveying my excitement for your work in this role, for the fact that the county has made it a priority to create this role and to put someone with your experience and your familiarity with the county, as well as dedication that you demonstrated in helping to get the role set up, that you communicated. And I really appreciated that you spoke a little bit to that, because I didn't know that bit. So I'm just really grateful and delighted that that you're here, and I look forward to you letting us know how we can be of assistance. And I look forward to you letting us know when we screwed up and need to do something better next time around. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Weir, and that's my turn. I think actually, this was the first time we worked was a number of years ago for what's the now Oracle building on Wilson Boulevard, when I was with Lion Village. So it's good to be professionally related again. I do want to join in with the comments of my fellow commissioners, and I'd like to go even a little bit further than the comments on the data gathering and publishing. going along with getting the data is also history. Having worked on the PFRC for Fire Station 8, for the site plan for Virginia Hospital Center, and for a number of our changes to our zoning ordinance, in all of those, the history of those, the built environment is an artifact of zoning, which was an artifact of something that was created during the Jim Crow era. And so much of what is around us now comes out of that era, and most of us don't even realize that. It's like the air. We need it, it's here, but we don't see it every day. We don't realize where it came from. If we could just have, if we could continue unearthing and publicizing the history of all of these things, that is a very important way of raising the consciousness of everybody in the county as to why is this here and why do we feel it's important to change it, and why does it have, and how does it impact on equity? So anything we can do to do further that, the county has published the history of African American communities within Arlington, which is good as far as it goes, but reading through it, there's so much more clearly that can be added to that. It touches on so many different things, but it doesn't go into depth. And I think that is something that could be further strengthened and publicized. So anyway, this is just my comment.
And one of the things that, to add to that is that, we do know, like you said, the history matters and the context with which we all work is important, because it gives us the grounding and that background to know, like you said, why things are the way they are. So one of the things that we have been working on also internally is trying to document like the history of race, but in specific areas. So, we've started with housing, land use, zoning, and we're starting to see some of that information, but trying to really have more of a comprehensive history of race in Arlington. That will be something that we can all look toward and use as we move forward. So that's definitely one of the things too that is on the list to work on.
Thank you. Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Ms. Byrd. I feel like I need to go ahead and chime in at this point. I might be one of the few people left to say something, but I want to just kind of publicly, you and I have had many conversations on race and equity here in Arlington and some of the things that still need to be done, especially as it comes to commission work and where we are lacking, not only just in representation, but in education and information. So I just want to make sure that I publicly state and align my comments with many of those of Vice Chair Latelmi right now, but also in the conversations that you and I have had about, I think, the responsibility that the county has to its commissioners and ensuring that the commissioners have sufficient I want to say maybe a re-education on equity-based issues, especially subject matter specific re-education, or even maybe in some cases education on equity-based matters, and in particular race-based matters. And so I look forward to working with you on identifying those opportunities, and in particular with regard to Planning Commission and other commissions that I may be involved with, and how we can advance those conversations, because quite frankly, these decisions that we make, we could potentially be perpetuating long-standing norms that we are unintending. That's not our intention. So thank you for your guidance, your expertise. And as Ms. Morton said, please let us know how we can assist and make sure that we are, have a keen eye to equity-based issues as we continue in RPC meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Patel. And now Commissioner Bagley.
Congratulations, Ms. Byrd. And I haven't worked with you in the many capacities that my colleagues have here, but I've seen you in a number of things, and am really excited one thing I'm curious about is your role. Are there others like you nationwide that perhaps we can learn from and hear about? I'd be really curious to hear, what advancements and what projects and what things are being learned across the country. And I hope over time that we can hear those from you as well. And again, anything that we can all do to help further your goals. I know all of us are wanting to do that. So congratulations.
Thank you. There are actually a number of other positions like mine in local government starting to take shape more so than before. A lot of work comes out of the West Coast in this area with government and advancing race and equity. In particular, Seattle, Portland are good examples. We also now in this region are starting to see, as we are moving forward with the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, now there is more focus in the metropolitan Washington area here. And we do have Fairfax County, who they have their One Fairfax. They have been doing this work for quite a bit of time, but now focusing more on racial equity over the past couple years. Alexandria is newer to doing the work as well, but starting. We're seeing Loudoun County, as well as Montgomery County, as well as Prince George's County, DC. So in this region, we are starting to fortify the work around it and starting to network and share resources and start to work together more so that we can have that learning experience and shared experience, but also definitely through GEAR have the network across the country to be able to share in the work and learn from others. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hughes, you're up again.
Sorry, I'm going
to
take my gray hair senior citizen status on the commission and take a little privilege because my fellow commissioners highlighted something, and I feel like talking to Ms. Byrd and in the public forum is a great thing on this, and especially it's about one of my commissioners who's talked about, I think Commissioner Patel was about the historical aspects of some items, and I want to share with Ms. Byrd and for my commissioners one thing that always frustrated me years back was we were going through two school processes. So the Stratford one. We talked so much and intensely about how Stratford and the H.B. Woodbine program was the first school in Arlington to integrate. But what we never talked about at the same time in that same conversation, Ms. Byrd, was that the elementary school we were also doing simultaneously was the first elementary school that integrated a few hours later that same day in Arlington at Patrick Henry site, which is now the Arlington Public Montessori School. So I do hope that gaining historical knowledge and making sure it's shared with the community is a great thing you move forward with as far as how we understand our entire community's process, because the middle schoolers were still alive and remembered it, but the elementary schoolers and their parents had not been part of the community and were no longer part of the community. So they were not here to really advocate for their story to be told and heard. So Ms. Byrd, I know you'll do a great job in your position, and I do feel like that is just, it was such an Arlington example. It hit me close to home, and it's such a great one for as you move forward in your work, helping to make sure we as a community acknowledge it and think about all of our actions. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Siegel again.
Hi, I'll be real brief. I want to align myself with Commissioner Lantelmi's request or suggestion, which I think is already on your plate, to unearth the roots of the discrimination starting from 600 years ago. But I think the other story I think would be worth telling is the struggle. Over time, we've kind of had a struggle, reached a plateau. We haven't gotten all the way there. We've had a backlash. Then we've had another struggle, reached a plateau. I think a good, there are already videos about Arlington's experience with this massive resistance and that sort of thing. But I think that too is good to focus on in your portfolio. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Siegel. Yeah, and I just want to jump back into what Commissioner Hughes was saying, is especially with the schools. We pat ourselves on the back because of Stratford being the first school in Virginia to be integrated, but it took a long time for Arlington to really further integrate the schools. it wasn't a one step, oh, it's all done. It took years. It took over more than a decade and beyond that for a full integration to occur. And even now, this question is whether that's really fully done. So that's why context is important. And I think Commissioner Siegel is right. The struggle is important too, because it's not one event, it's a process. And it's something that there's a timeline that goes longer and longer. And having us understand how that worked, how that happened, and what happened and when, I think is very important, because so much of this is still within living memory. So anyway, thank you. Our chair is back. Hello, Commissioner Chair Garrett. I guess I could turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Am I muted? No.
No, you're back on.
Thank you so much, Ms. Byrd, for taking the time to share this with us tonight. I know you're as busy as the rest of us, and I'm sorry I missed most of this. My only question was when we can expect regular updates so we know what's going on and we can try to incorporate it with our on-the-ground work with SPRCs and so on.
Yep, and I'm happy to come back and give updates. And also, I was saying, if people wanted to follow the website, we'll put information out there, and I can just keep in touch with staff and make sure you all know what's happening and the progress of things, and we can decide when you want to have me back to give more updates too as well.
Great, thank you so much. We do like to have it at the hearings since these are taped, and we see this as a way to broadcast to all of the other commissions that relay recommendations. So super, thanks for that.
Could we do a liaison? Could we perhaps see, as we go through our liaison list, maybe we need to have a liaison?
Would you consider that?
Just consider it. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Lantelmi, did everyone have a chance to ask Ms. Byrd their questions?
Yes, they have. We've been pretty much through it. So if no one else has anything further to say, we can let her go.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. Take care. I'm sorry, Commissioner Bagley has her hand up.
I just had a thought. And, you know, some of us do this in our work lives to encourage those who possibly haven't had opportunities to like shadow. So I'm wondering if, you know, maybe there could be some sort of a program to get more folks involved at various levels and in various parts of the community to shadow, you know, commissioners to shadow us that, you know, that they would see and hopefully would want to be involved, because it's not so much just that the opportunity hasn't been there. A lot of times they don't really understand the interest and why you want to be. So just a thought, I think maybe shadowing somewhere along the line might be kind of a neat thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great thought.
Thanks, Commissioner Bagley. Okay, one more time, we're going to make sure we've covered everyone. And excellent. Again, thanks so much, Ms. Byrd, and we'll see her again, so you can save follow-up questions for then. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Yes. I'm still in the glow of Mrs. Byrd right now, so let me gather myself together.
Yeah.
It's been a while since she graced us. I said so already, Giselle.
Yes, it has.
Other fellow commissioners, Ms. Byrd used to work with us on SPRCs, and we did get to see her a lot more. It's been a while.
All right, item number 4 is a zoning amendment for outdoor cafes, ZOA-2020-03, and Nick Rogers, our planning staff, will be presenting this item for the evening.
Welcome, Mr. Rogers, and what a lovely surprise that you're here with us. Nice to see you.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, members of the Commission, I am working on getting this PowerPoint up ready for you all. Just bear with me here. Excellent. And you should be seeing a view of the outdoor cafe outside of fireworks right now. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Great. So we are very eager to be here before you tonight for this public hearing, presenting our findings on this short-term study where staff is recommending approval of a text amendment that would enable the establishment of outdoor cafes for an already established restaurant in the RC zoning district. And as some of you who are veterans to the commission know, when we mean outdoor cafes, we're talking about something very specific that has 3 key elements per our Article 18 zoning definition. An outdoor cafe has portable seating and tables. The food and beverage that's served at that outdoor cafe is coming from the restaurant's regular menu, and it's outside the exterior restaurant walls. And so, and I mentioned already established restaurant. Outdoor cafes are permitted as an accessory use so long as a principal use of a restaurant is already permitted at wherever the subject property is located. And throughout the past several decades in Arlington, throughout our corridors and other parts of the county, we've been very successful in creating a sense of place, a vibrancy in our planned areas. And so we have various seating areas. You can see here those permanent installations, other passive recreation opportunities. We have a lot of things that perhaps from a casual glance may look like an outdoor cafe, but it's that those key features that I mentioned in the preamble of the slide, that's what we're talking about here from a strictly zoning ordinance perspective. The process is twofold. There are 2 different options for an outdoor cafe. Outdoor cafes can be permitted when enabled by the accessory use table. They can be permitted by right whenever the space that the outdoor cafe is located in is completely on private property. There's a certificate of occupancy that's issued for that, and that review is done by our zoning division and our inspection services division. In instances where the outdoor cafe would encroach into public right-of-way or perhaps on private property, where the cafe would be located within an easement of public use, a outdoor cafe can be permitted, but it requires county board use permit approval. I did include in your staff report an attachment to a series of use standards that are already in the zoning ordinance that control for a number of controlling for adverse impacts that can be associated potentially with outdoor cafes. I do highlight 2 here on your slide where we do have standards that restrict the level and the timing related to piped in audio and visual entertainment, as well as a use standard that requires that the outdoor cafe have fewer seats than those in the main restaurant. The county board does have modification authority to adjust those through their use permit process. So globally, we've talked some about our outdoor cafes, but really specifically, we're just talking about the RC zoning district here in Arlington. And as you know, we have 19 different zoning districts in the zoning ordinance that enable some various levels of commercial and or mixed use development. RC specifically, dating back to when it was originally adopted into the zoning ordinance in 1979, you're seeing a map that our mapping center has done, but these purple areas show where RC is located in the county, mostly within close proximity of the Ballston and Virginia Square Metro rail stations, but also a small piece near courthouses as well. This is a zoning district where the purpose and intent is to enable high, medium density residential development as well as create this mixed use transitional area between higher density and lower density development here in Arlington. Now, in the staff report, I did highlight some of the journey which brought us here before you tonight, how as part of our reformatting of the zoning ordinance and across 2013 through 2015, we did create those principal use tables and those accessory use tables. And as we sort of unraveled that historical pyramid structure of the zoning ordinance and created those new use tables through that translation process, whereas many of our districts did have outdoor cafes permitted, RC was not one of them. And this was further highlighted to us over the course of 2019, where we did have a local business owner submit an application for an outdoor cafe, and through the administration of our zoning ordinance, the message was communicated that it would be a prohibited use. Given that RC is one of those mixed use districts that I described, we did add a review of this, a limitation to the FY21 work plan, and the Plan Commission and County Board did review that in their joint session earlier this year. And so just jumping ahead to some of our analysis as we did focus on this matter, we were, we see this as, particularly with outdoor cafes, there is adopted policy within the 2015 retail plan that does support and encourage the establishment of outdoor cafes in Arlington. You'll note at the time of that report, the retail plan notes that there were over 200 outdoor cafes in operation in Arlington, somewhere to the tune of 2,000 tables for dining, and the retail plan does go into detail how outdoor cafes really do improve the retail experience, the sense of place in our most vibrant corridors, and it can be, from an economic development perspective, a very important aspect of the restaurant's bottom line, increasing that seating area, buoying their financial stability. So you have that adopted policy in the retail plan. Taking a look at the zoning ordinance itself, restaurants already a permitted use in RC. This is a zoning district, as I mentioned previously. It's intended for that vibrancy and that activity that we've been successful in establishing near our metro rail stations. And again, this is a permitted use that is very highly regulated, dating back to versions of use standards that have been on the books since 1978. Again, within our commercial, 15 of our 19 commercial mixed use districts already, with use standards to control for those adverse impacts, as well as in those areas where we are providing that encroachment into the public right of way, providing that county board oversight, that community engagement on each one of those applications. So segueing a bit to community engagement, this was, although this was a short-term study, we did use the full complement of our virtual tools to ensure that we were keeping folks informed, particularly those who live and work in and around our RC zoned parcels, with targeted outreach to civic associations, our business improvement districts, as well as NAIOP and the Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Johnson would have submitted a letter that the Chamber of Commerce shared with you earlier today. And we did conduct an online feedback forum where, of the 69 respondents, 85% of them did support this change in the zoning ordinance to allow outdoor cafes in RC. But we also made sure to capture that feedback. You'll see that in your staff report, as well as some of the highlights here on the slide. Whereas a lot of the folks who were supportive of the amendment commented on how this will continue to energize street life and support our business community. Some respondents did make sure to caution and be mindful of the need to continue to maintain clear zones for pedestrians and folks using our sidewalks, as well as being mindful of vigilant enforcement of our noise ordinance and making sure that we're not creating undue disturbance on nearby residential areas. The amendment itself is very simple. You saw in attachment 1 of your report, we'd just be adding that P for the outdoor cafe line for private property and the U for the line with the where the outdoor cafes would be located in the right-of-way or an easement of public use. And then just finally taking a look at our schedule, the board did authorize the county manager to advertise this amendment for both your review tonight as well as the county board on December 12th. And with that, Madam Chair and Madam Clerk, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Great report. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers for this item?
We do not this evening.
Well, are there any commissions in attendance that wish to speak to this item? And I understand that transportation did not hear this. Okay, so with that, we'll go to Commissioner Patel for a ZOCO report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Zoning Committee did not actually hear this matter. Staff briefed both ZOCO chairs, myself and Commissioner Weir regarding the proposed process for this specific proposal. And given the limited geographic scope as well as the study scope, the decision was made for it not to come before the Zoning Committee. Rather, staff used considerable community engagement and utilized a dedicated website for members of the public interested in learning more about this particular study, as well as the proposed amendments to obtain more information and to provide public comment. As Mr. Rogers indicated, they did reach out to multiple organizations and IOP, Chamber of Commerce, who actually submitted a comment in support of this proposal, as well as the civic associations, Ballston, Virginia Square, Bluemont, Ashton, Buckingham, all of which are laid out in my memo. I don't want to belabor this particular issue because it is non-controversial. And again, the scope is so narrow. There have not been or do not appear to be really any outstanding agenda items for extensive discussion by the commission. So I leave it to the fellow commissioners to see whether or not there are specific issues that may have arisen in their review of the materials. However, Mr. Rogers and his team have done a really great job by putting together the historical kind of need and perspective as to why this amendment is necessary at this point. So if there is no discussion, I am ready for a possible motion on the issue.
Excellent. Thank you so much for putting together a report, given that we didn't hear it at ZOCO. I appreciate you doing that. That certainly does guide our discussion to be very focused tonight. Commissioners, this is with us at the moment. Are there any issues that anyone feels we need to raise at this point, debate, discuss, ask of Mr. Rogers or our ZOCO chairs who've looked at this in greater detail? Oh my goodness. Commissioner Patel, I think we're ready for a motion.
It is a Christmas present.
It is. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board amend Section 7.1.3 of the Arlington County Zoning Ordinance to allow outdoor cafes associated with the restaurant 1 on private property as permitted use by right, and 2 on public right-of-way or on private property within an easement for public use by County Board for use permit approval. Is that all of it? Is that not all of it?
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Hughes?
Schroll.
Schroll, thank you. Motion by Commissioner Patel, seconded by Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Schroll, not seeing any need to discuss this motion, I'll go through for a vote in the order I normally do. Commissioner Lantelmi?
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley? Aye. Commissioner Hughes?
Aye.
Commissioner Morton?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarli?
Aye.
Commissioner Schroll?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel?
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Weir?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerin? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers and Commissioner Patel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Before we go into our PC committee reports, I'm sorry I missed the majority of Ms. Byrd's report, but I do want to say that I'm heartened by both the presentation by Ms. Byrd and the county moving towards greater equity in this interest and thoughtful pursuit of ways to make Arlington more livable for our residents, for our businesses, even in the time of COVID. So this was a great thing to have on our agenda for this evening. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Yes. Our next item for the evening will be PC committee reports and other businesses, which will include voting and electing our 2021 Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's start with approval of the minutes for November 2nd and November 4th. We can't approve them as one since there were a few absentees for one of those meetings. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for November 2nd?
Second, Commissioner Patel.
Excellent. I guess I'll make a motion to approve the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look, I'm just ready. I'm just moving right along here. I apologize. I make a motion to
much efficient way of running these meetings than I do. Commissioner Hughes, did you want to make a motion?
No, I'm gonna make Devanshi do it, and then I'll second it.
I move to approve the meeting minutes from November 2nd, the Planning Commission meeting minutes from November 2nd.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Patel, seconded by Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Lantelmi?
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley?
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes?
Aye.
Commissioner Morton?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarli?
Aye.
Commissioner Schroll?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel?
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Weir?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerin? Aye. Excellent. Passes. Those minutes are approved unanimously. Now we need a motion for the November 4th meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the meeting minutes from the November 4th Planning Commission meeting. This is Commissioner Steinberger.
I see that. Thank you, Commissioner Steinberger. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schroll, correct?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you. And remember, if you were not in attendance, you just abstain. So we'll go in order again. Commissioner Lantelmi?
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley?
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes?
Abstain.
Commissioner Morton?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Abstain.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarli?
Aye.
Commissioner Schroll?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel?
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Weir?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerin? Abstain. Those pass with 9 ayes and 3 abstentions. Excellent. Is there a staff report?
Mr. Pfeiffer?
Staff report for what now?
Sometimes it's. Are you being silly, Mr. Pfeiffer?
Yeah.
No, he's serious.
Okay. We do sometimes get just a general overview of things that are going on through CPHD that don't make it onto our agenda, but which staff feel are of import to the Planning Commission.
Oh, my apologies. Not at this time, no.
Thank you. That's fine. Thanks, Mr. Pfeiffer. Okay, then we'll go on to committee reports. And we'll just be brief unless there's something extensive we need to discuss. Commissioner Morton, Site Plan Review Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hearing feedback. Not sure what's happening. So Our calendar's starting to fill up as we anticipated. So we've got a number of both existing and new projects going through SPRC this month. First one is this coming Monday. The project I'm chairing, Courthouse Landmark, will be having its first virtual SPRC meeting. The following Monday, we have we had one online commenting period for Fort Henry Gardens. As I talked about last time, we're transitioning to having one online commenting session with all of the topics and then moving directly to the virtual meeting. So December 14th, a week from Monday, Commissioner Bagley will be running that process. I did want to point out there have been some modifications to the standard SPRC process for engagement and recognition of some historic difficulties and perceived difficulties going forward for members of that community. I'm going to be really interested in looking at that vis-a-vis what Ms. Byrd talked about today, and hopefully tracking that and making sure that that modification is suiting the needs of the residents and the projects going forward. Following the Fort Henry Gardens on December 14th, December 17th, we're starting the process for Potomac Yard Land Bay Sea East that Commissioner Hughes and Sarli are co-chairing. December 28th, we have Crystal Plaza 1, which Commissioner Weir is chairing. And beginning of next year, January 7th, we're starting on a new submission for the RCA site that Commissioner Steinberger is chairing. I want to mention just really quickly this issue of co-chairs, which people have been evolving to just prefer to chair themselves. We are facing a need during the virtual SPRC to have a kind of a tag team, somebody helping out, as Commissioner Gearin and Lantelmi did with our two first projects. For these two coming up, mine and Commissioner Bagley's, we're just doing a tag team. We're kind of, just for the purposes of the virtual meeting, serving as co-chair and running the tech support. So I'd encourage those of you going forward to be thinking about that when you do get to the virtual session, because the staff is counting on a second Planning Commission rep to help run that meeting, as Commissioner Gearin and Lantelmi have done. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Morton. Commissioner Schull, can we get a report for LRPC?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So LRPC has been relatively busy this fall, but in December, we only have one meeting coming up, so that's next week on the special GLUP study for Pershing Drive. It's on December 8th. That will be a virtual meeting. And then on the Clarendon sector plan, met with staff today, and they are planning to do another recorded session, a kind of recorded content that is likely to be posted at the end of next week, and then have sort of a broader kind of time to provide feedback given the holidays. So that's what's coming up. We will have another recorded session from staff on Clarendon sector plan in January, and then looking to have another virtual meeting for the Clarendon sector plan update in February. So that's what we have going on right now.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Schull. And now an update from ZOCO. Commissioner Weir or Commissioner Patel?
Okay,
go ahead. Go ahead, Devanshi.
Oh, well, so Mr. Rogers has informed both myself and Daniel that we will be teeing a few things up in January. So I think there'll be a couple of items that'll be up for ready for ZOCO's review in January. I don't actually know what those things are per se right now, but we will be busy starting in January.
That's good. It's like a teaser. We'll all be excited for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come see what we're all about.
Now we're tentatively looking at the week of the 4th. Not certain what that date will be. More to come.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lantelmi, can we have an update for PFRC?
Yes, and actually there's some, what I consider to be fairly exciting news from PFRC. We had last month our final PFRC for Fire Station 8. And as one of the community representatives said, this is the first time after a value engineering process, the project came out looking better than it did going in. It preserved the functionality of the fire station. It preserved the, of course, important historical components of the building to honor the African American Volunteer Fire Department history of the building and the site. And we were able to take a couple $1 million out of the budget. But the most exciting thing about this is that the roof of the building is the first in Arlington that will be a combination solar roof and green roof. And not only is it coming in within the budget, but it will actually be more efficient to combine the green roof with the solar roof, because the synergy there that the green roof will make the solar panels work more efficiently because it helps lower the temperatures. So it is working together. I raise this because we can note it going forward. This is a combination of sustainability and biophilia, which when other projects come before us, this is something we can point to as it is practical and it has advantages to do so. So I wanted to call that to everybody's attention. I think it's a wonderful thing. The community was very excited by it and also noted that that feature is a real eye-opener and a real advantage to the county as a whole. So I was very excited about that. Coming up this month will be tentatively our first PFRC meeting for the proposed ART bus maintenance facility in Green Valley, which is between Shirlington Road and 395. So that will be coming up. And finally, Commissioner Steinberger has agreed to take over from me as chair of the PFRC. Thank you very much, Commissioner Steinberger. And we will be getting that effectuated. So as of January 1st, she'll be the chair. And that's the news for the PFRC.
Thank you. That is very good news, both about the solar green roof combo, and thank you, Commissioner Steinberger, for taking on that leadership role. Commissioner Schroll? You had your hand up. Commissioner Schroll?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You've gone mute.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Just wanted to mention that the National Renewable Energy Lab has some good has done some good work on the integration of kind of agriculture and solar that we might want to look at as we look at biophilia as well, and so that might be something for the commission to look at. I didn't want to step on Commissioner Steinberger's toes here too if she wanted to say anything about her upcoming role as PFRC chair. So glad to see you're taking that on. So. Commissioner Steinberger, sorry.
Sure. No, I'm really excited about it. Thank you to Commissioner Lantelmi for helping me get my feet under me on that subcommission. And I'm looking forward to the upcoming projects we're going to be reviewing there, including the bus terminal. I know is the next kind of one teed up, and we'll take it from there. So looking forward to it, and thank you. I look forward to doing it.
And I also want to mention that Commissioner Sarley has joined PFRC also. So I think we have a pretty good lineup now.
Who's the third member?
PFRC. Commissioner Peterson.
Excellent. I agree. This sounds like a really good team. Thank you. Commissioner Hughes, can we have a report on the form-based code working group?
Yep. Early next year, we should hear a staff amendment to extend some TDR allowances within the form-based code commercial sector coming forward to us. So stay tuned on this commission. So.
Okay. Commissioner Siegel, can we have a brief update on the PDSP? I know you did send a written report out, but just highlights.
I sure will. Thank you so much, Commissioner Guerin. To remind you very quickly, I would say first, this effort, which will create a plan for Pentagon City, which now includes, through a PDSP, but it'll go beyond the normal PDSP list of things that are required, density, building massing, etc. And it includes river houses, which have not been in any plan. River houses are unplanned. It'll be very, very different from the sector plans that we're more used to. So this is it's an unpaid political announcement, and I encourage you to go online on I think it's the 9th of December. I think you have to sign up, which is a simple thing to do. The website, the report that I sent out contains a link, a hyperlink, and you will see a page where you then can sign up. The basic work units for what is going to be a new kind of planning effort for us include, from a substantive point of view, guiding principles or planning principles. Then we will move to scenarios, development scenarios. If you followed the Met Park, the park in Met Park, it'll be sort of like that, where the consultants will take information from the members of the county broadly. We've had 80 people per session so far, so it's really been successful that way, and create a plan that people will then throw darts at, approve, praise, criticize, whatever. And that will be the basis for how we will be approaching the SPRCs. So I encourage commissioners to just dip a toe in to this process. And what I'd like to do with the 15 seconds I have left is just read out the draft guiding principles right now. They're draft principles. They're meant to be even shocking. So here they are. Number one, Pentagon City will offer safe, inviting transportation choices that make driving unnecessary. I think that's quite an extreme statement there, but it's meant to be provocative. Number two, the streets and public places of Pentagon City will be alive with people enjoying nature and community. 3, Pentagon City development will advance global standards for sustainable design, and Pentagon City will welcome more people from throughout the region and world to live, work, learn, and share culture. Pentagon City will fill the missing links, physical and over time, to become a cohesive neighborhood connected to the broader 22202 community. And one of my suggestions will be, and the rest of Arlington, we will be seeing a lot of economic benefit out of the development in Pentagon City that will benefit the entire county. So I encourage you to also look through the slide deck that I think you can find it from the hyperlink that I sent you. If you can't, call me and I'll send it to you again. This is it's been very exciting and stimulating to sort of work in this way, starting extremely broadly and working very efficiently to an outcome, which right now is scheduled for June. It could slip, of course, as you know, but I hope my unpaid political announcement has intrigued you and that you will follow the process. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're correct. It is next Wednesday, the 9th. So,
at 6 o'clock.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Hughes, you had your hand up.
There we go. First to do a paid thanks on the public notice. Jane, I look forward to River House, and I hope its most famous resident, Grace Hopper, is part of a continued conversation. And you can go look it up online, and it's a wonderful Wikipedia page which will tell you her wonderful history at River House. So that's just a plug for our history buffs here.
I got you covered on that.
Great.
There is a lovely bubble diagram that was done by a former planning commissioner, which calls that area, it's a 1 acre publicly eased park. It's public. It is not part of River House. It's called Graceland. So I've got you covered right there.
So that's homework for everybody who doesn't know who Grace Hopper is. I got a little schooling on that myself this afternoon from Commissioner Hughes.
I do. So I think we're about to go, Madam Chair, are you about to move on to your elections?
Yes, I am. I'm about to do that.
Okay, but before we do, normally, I do want to interrupt because I want to do a pass. I know your year has gone by in a flash, and you really wish you probably did not take this on.
Stephen, you have at least 25 points. Excellent.
You wish that you had not joined our commission probably at this point as chair for the year. And I appreciate you being chair more than anyone here, because it would have probably been my head on the chopping block if your head wasn't there. So I know that you have embraced the challenge and done a wonderful thing. And so I talked to Commissioner Lantomi. And so for my fellow commissioners, you may notice that Elizabeth and former Commissioner Iacomini and I are a troublesome bunch when we were over in the corner. Jane certainly knows that for a fact. But when we would like to play games, and so actually, if you haven't noticed, throughout our virtual experience, Commissioner Gearin has been absent of having a gavel. So normally you will see commissioners' chairs out with a gavel, but Commissioner Gearin did not have one in her home. And so in the absence of a gavel, she came up with incredible creative things, from a spoon on the first night to a spatula, I think a whisk on one night, to a piece of lumber that she happens to probably pull off of her backyard. And so in that spirit, I thought that giving the gavel would be an inappropriate gift for Commissioner Gearin this year. And we all know her love of trees. So a tree was harmed, so she probably doesn't like that in the purpose of her gift. But there she goes. She now has a spoon as her gavel on a mounted thing for her chairmanship. So to my fellow commissioners, I know I speak for all of us when I say, Elizabeth, thank you for your service. And we look forward to you joining our ranks as a regular commissioner again, and appreciate your time served as chair.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so I am ready to open nominations for chair. I'd like to start by making a motion. I move that Commissioner Lantomi be chair of PC for 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second. That's Siegel.
Thank you, Commissioner Siegel. I'm delighted to nominate Commissioner Lantomi for this role to serve as our chair for 2021. He's an excellent fit for Planning Commission leadership. He has a history of public service to the county, experience with our community style of engagement, and he has a genuine interest in the issues that we face. Some of you might already know this, but after his 25-year career as Assistant General Counsel for FDIC, Jim went back to school to study city planning, and so he brings both sets of professional skills to PC, his legal background and his master's degree in planning from University of Pennsylvania. And he was a respected leader in the county before he joined us in 2017. He served as the president of the Lion Village Civic Association. Since he's been with us, he's been an invaluable member of PC. He's had wide experience on our commission, chairing PFRC, serving as liaison to Transportation Commission. He's served as the chair or co-chair of several SPRCs. He's been co-leading the work to update the Pentagon City Pdsp. And this past year, in his role as vice chair, he has supported me in very challenging issues as we strove to maintain the PC's collegialism and professionalism in our new and changing virtual environment. as we continue to engage the community and facilitate their inclusion and representation, and as we expanded our scope to address issues of equity in our community. So I look forward to working together with Jim next year and in the future. Are there other nominations for chair? Okay. With that, I'll close the nominations for chair and call for votes on Commissioner Lantelmi to serve as our chair for next year. Commissioner Lantelmi.
I don't know if there was whether to abstain or say aye, but I'll say aye.
You can vote for yourself, of course. Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Morton.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sarli.
Aye.
Commissioner Schroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Weir.
Aye.
Commissioner Guerin. Aye. Well, congratulations, Commissioner Lantelmi.
Thank you.
That's excellent. And now we will recognize you for your remarks.
First off, thank you very much for your confidence in me for next year. I am looking forward to a challenging year while we continue to work in a virtual environment and with a very heavy workload coming up. That said, I have every confidence we'll be able to handle this as well as we continue to handle it well the way we did this year. I am very, very impressed by all of my fellow commissioners. I know you all have my back. You bring tremendous strength to the commission. I continue to learn from you, and I continue to turn and listen to everything you say because each of you is bringing particular strength to the commission that we as a whole are way stronger than any of us are individually. I don't know how many times I have modified or changed my mind after having listened to you, listened to comments from various other commissioners, and I expect that will continue. It's been an absolute pleasure to continue to work with you, and I see that just continuing for the coming year. And I think we've adapted well to our new environment. I've actually seen advantages to it compared to our meeting in person, and I'd like to be able to take the best of both experiences moving forward as we continue to refine our procedures. And as we heard earlier from Ms. Byrd, continue to further weave equity issues into all of our process and procedures and decisions. I think this is something that should be institutionalized, that is something that will become just part of the air we breathe, that we won't really even have to be thinking about it because we will just always be doing it. I also would like to see us more in the future give a sense of the commission that even if something doesn't come before us, we'll be willing to give advice to our board. And I think that's something that we'll continue to work on. That said, I want to thank our Chair Guerin for being chairman this year. I've learned a lot. I've watched you, and I think I now feel better about doing the job after seeing how you've been able to handle it and how much I've learned on, okay, this is how to do it. And I think that I've learned very well from you and continue to do so. And I also want to thank the other senior members of the commission. Each of you have taught me a lot. I've been mentored in some ways by each of you, and have learned tremendous things over the past 4 years. I was a bit daunted taking on vice chair, but I'm feeling way better about now being chair after having been vice chair for a year. So anyway, that said, let's move on to, I would like to make a motion.
Yes.
I would move that Commissioner Daniel Weir be nominated for vice chair of the Planning Commission for 2021.
Second. Okay, Stephen Hughes seconds. Okay, excellent. Please speak to why you believe
Yes.
Commissioner will be a good chair.
I will be happy to. As I said, I am both. It is both with pleasure and with confidence that I move to have Commissioner Weir be the vice chair for us this coming year. Commissioner Weir has been in Arlington since 2007. He has had, in addition to his work, he has been doing volunteer work for the county and other civic responsibilities for the time he's been here with the board of directors of the Barcroft School and Civic League. He also has been on he's been on Transportation Commission. He is right now chairing our ZOCO, and he's also handled quite a number of SBRCs and quite ably over the past few years. I did note how he handled those, and I thought he did a wonderful job in dealing with all the various stakeholders that come before SBRC, the community, developers, the other members of the public, and the other commissions. They were all very successful SBRCs. The other thing he was working on was the TJ Working Group, which was not an easy thing to deal with. Having dealt with school issues with PFRC, it is a thankless task. And that experience has served him very well and will continue to serve him well in the coming year as our vice chairman, if he is elected, and I certainly hope he will be. He has his law degree from George Mason here in Arlington. He has a master's in foreign affairs from UVA, and he has his BA in political science from Concordia College. And he is both a homeowner and a daddy since he's joining the Planning Commission. So his wealth of experience will serve him well. Again, those are my comments. Why we should vote for him.
Thank you. Are there other nominations for vice chair? Okay. So hearing none, I will close the nominations for vice chair, and we will vote on Commissioner Lantelmi's motion for Commissioner Weir to be vice chair. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Morton.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sarli.
Aye.
Commissioner Schroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Weir.
Is it too late to vote nay?
Yes.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Guerin, aye. So that motion passes unanimously as well. Congratulations. And would you like to make any remarks?
Thank you, Commissioner Lantelmi, for your very kind words, and thank you to my colleagues for your trust. I'm very honored and a little bit scared. There's a lot of work to do, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. I want to congratulate formally our new chair and vice chair and express my delight and confidence in this team going forward. We're about ready to close our meeting, so I just want to say a couple of things. It has been my honor and privilege to serve you as chair and to work with you, my colleagues, and with our overall community and with county staff and leadership. The county and the Planning Commission continues in an era of exciting opportunities, lots of growth, work with a very engaged community, residents, business owners, and with some exceptional developers and investors as well. And despite COVID, we've experienced some even greater collaboration and collegiality among ourselves. You are a remarkable group of individuals whom I admire personally. Thank you all for the opportunity I had this year. With regard to the meeting tonight, I want to thank my colleagues for their leadership on the items this month, Commissioner Morton for ably chairing SPRC, especially throughout this year, Commissioner Schroll for Lrpc, and Commissioners Weir and Patel on ZOCO, Commissioner Lantelmi for PFRC, Commissioner Hughes on Form-Based Code Advisory Working Group, and Commissioner Siegel and Commissioner Lantelmi on PDSP. As I tend to say often, let's continue to rely on and work with one another to facilitate our thorough and thoughtful community engagement. And thank you, staff, applicants, members of the public, for your time, consideration, and patience. Items that we heard this week on Tuesday and tonight will go to the County Board on Saturday, December 12th. Planning Commissioner Siegel will represent the PC at this meeting. Many staff labor to make this virtual meeting run smoothly. Thanks to all of you, and special thanks to our clerk, Ms. Johnson, and our SPRC supervisor, Matt Pfeiffer. It's been my honor to work with all of you, staff and colleagues. And with that, the commission is adjourned until 2021.
Yay!
Have a good December, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yay.
Yeah,
Happy
Thank you, Elizabeth.
December,
Congratulations.
great holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
See everybody at SPRCs next week.
Oh, don't do that.
Bye.
There's Lrpc next week too.
We knew that because Giselle
Right.
sent out the calendar and I updated all of my dates to make sure I knew about
Yep.
Thank you, Sarah.
Wait till you get the PFRC double dips. So you'll have some fun with that one, Sarah.
I'll manage.
And we have a PDSP meeting next week too. Busy week.
Bye, guys.
Bye all.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, take care, guys.